This email from LJ says, hello, Jarrett, Tre'vell, and the entire FANTI team. Thanks for all your energy and time providing the world with your amazing show. I've been a listener since almost day one, and I've learned so many incredible, valuable lessons from you. I've just listened to the episode Color of Friendship, and the part of the conversation about working with white people or people who happen to be white caught my attention in particular. What was the process behind joining MaximumFun, a company founded and owned by a white man? Were you approached by them first? Did you consider any Black-owned podcast networks? Not sure if this question is something you can answer on the air, but I appreciate the open inbox policy either way. LJ, I actually wrote something about this when we got this email, so I have to pull it up, but go ahead.
Okay, well, I will first say that, MaximumFun is not is now a worker-owned company. That's not to be like, well, actually, that's just to share the information.
Oh no, I'm going to be pitching that as a well, actually.
But when the show first started, it was owned by Big Boss Jesse. And so this show, we actually talk a little bit about the journey of doing this show. We did it on a previous episode. It might have been members only content. I think maybe our first year of doing the podcast. But I had been a guest on a number of MaximumFun shows. Pop Rocket, rest in peace. What was the name of Laura? I know you in the chat, Laura. What was the name of the movies podcast before it was Maximum Film? It was called something else.
Had you done Heat Rocks before?
I hadn't done Heat Rocks before. Who Shot Ya? That's what it was called. But I had done both of those shows like a couple times, and super producer Laura Swisher, pew, 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 was the producer on those shows. And, obviously I am wonderful and mesmerizing to all who come into contact with my brilliance. And so Laura was like, if you're ever interested in doing a show, let me know. Now, I did not know that the company was owned by a white man at that time, but I could have assumed. And then we were also talking with another company at a little moment, and ultimately we decided on MaximumFun because that's where the relationship was with Laura. When we finally met with Jesse and Bikram, they were very receptive to our fabulosity. I don't know of any Black-owned podcast networks. Take that back. I do know of an independent, small building network called The Cube, which is like a Black queer woman-owned network. She has a podcast called Queer News. That's like a weekly queer news podcast, and then she has some other spinoffs as well. But I think they're fairly new. That just dropped in my head. Her name is Anna Deshawn. But no, we went with where the relationship was existing and where the opportunity was. But we've always been very clear that we wanted to, center Black folks in the conversations that we have here, which, this isn't an official policy. Should I say this, Jarrett?
I mean, go for it. I feel like we're pretty direct about how we operate the show. So
good. So we have not had nary a white person on this show. That has been intentional.
I think what's interesting when people pitch the show, I'm always when they pitch guests to be on the show, I'm like, it can tell me how much people are paying attention to it. The thing about it here is like we know that we are on a network that is, predominantly white as far as like our talent, our audience, and we know that, right? We don't have to kind of play around that, and we also hear about that from y'all, right? Things always sound different in the commercials is something that I have people say reflect back to me quite a bit, and like we recognize that, but we also know that like MaximumFun has been a really fantastic network to work for, to work with, to collaborate alongside, and to try things out. Like us being on YouTube now is something that we had really wanted out of doing a new season, and said like this is something important to us. It's just part of the strategy that we'd like to grow. And working with Bikram and the team over at MaximumFun, they've been really down to try things with us. We've been talking about live shows and expanding other things on the network, and so we could be making a lot more money on another podcast network for sure, which is why we push really hard on the Max Fun Drive and ask y'all to contribute and things like that, because we are on an independent network that is artist owned and listener supported and now owned by the employees. But also like we recognize that there's something special that happens here at Max Fun that is different than you would be getting somewhere else, and that we are building a community of people here. We're also building a community of content, right? We've also talked about this a little bit, but Tre'vell really wants to jump in and say something, so I'm gonna just keep talking.
Because you're being disrespectful now, okay? Cause you know I got something to say. You see it on my face, and I heard you was about to take a breath, but you didn't. I noticed it. I heard it, friend. I seen it. I see what you're doing.
Tre'vell does this to me all the time. Tre'vell will see me wanting to say something and will be like, what else could I say right now?
But it's cute when I do it, okay?
Exactly. It's cute when I do it. But I want to say this lastly, though, like we're building a community here, right? And so we talked about this either at the end of last season or top of this season. We're going to be bringing you more shows, right? So Tre'vell is working on We See Each Other, the podcast, which will be a show that we will be bringing you around their book. Our book together, Historically Black Phrases, will be supported with the podcast that we will be doing. That will be a separate individual project. And then we'll be also developing some other projects around here as well. So the commercials might sound a little bit different as things come around and we're bringing y'all more things. And so, yes, we are very aware of the ways in which of Max Fun, has appeared in the world and what the audience looks like. But we're also really, happy about what we're doing here.
I was going to say, I'm glad I remembered it because things come and go real quick over here, honey. But the thing I was going to say is, in this episode, we talk about white friends, the Color Friendship episode, white people versus people who happen to be white. I think it might be appropriate. Go with me here, friend, to say that Max Fun is a network that happens to be white as opposed to a white network. Like, I feel like, I could trust these people, what did we on the accomplice on the allyship episode with Jarrett Lucas.
Jarrett Lucas.
They talked about we need white people in particular, to be race traders. I feel like, Max Fun as a net is a you see what I'm saying? I won't actually put that coherent sentence together just in case somebody wants to chop that up and do something with it. But
Well, because in my mind, I don't even know like who all's in the office, but like this is playing in the office right now, and like certain white people are like,
"Where's that going?
Where's that going now? Now, wait a minute now."
The staff is also the employees are also super diverse. Not to do that whole
yes,
diversity thing, but I think if you looked at the, what do you call it, the people on staff, I think you might actually be surprised at the people who are behind so many of the shows that you all hear on the network.
As you look across the network, we have a pretty diverse group of people that are working on this. And I also want to say that like being at Max Fun has had an impact on me as a person. Like the episodes of other shows that I've done have had like significant impact in my life. The episode of Heat Rocks that I did,
Depression Mode,
I became friendly with India Ari after spending that episode talking about her and was able to connect with her. The episode I just did of Go Fact Yourself with Mandy Gonzalez from In the Heights was the guest on the episode. That was like a life moment for me. Depression Mode episode that you mentioned, Tre'vell, that was a significant moment for me in where I was in depression for myself. Soon after like suicidal ideation, it was a number of months after that. Bullseye, I've had some of my favorite interviews with people recently, with Winston Duke, with Tamron Hall. I just did an interview with Shonda Rhimes that'll be coming out soon. I did a great interview with Anika Noni Rose there. So like the relationship here at Max Fun has been really, really valuable for us and the show and all that. So